Very, very sad news to start our news coverage today as we learned that Jay Briscoe has very sadly passed away at the age of 38. He was set to turn 39 next week in what is reported to be a car crash. It's just an awful situation.
Yeah, it was along with the driver of another car who's yet to be identified. They've also passed away. This is according to Delaware State Police. The crash occurred around 5:30 p.m. local time yesterday. It's also understood that 2 more people are in a critical condition and are being evaluated as a result of the accident in the area of Laurel Road and Little Hill Road in Laurel, Delaware. It's just... I don't know what you even say.
I know it's a very tragic situation. Obviously, we wish everybody who's still affected by the incident well and a full recovery, hopefully. But there'll still be more news to come out about that, I'm sure. But yeah, what do you say about the Briscoes? Really, I mean, they're one of the most prominent non-WWE tag teams ever, I think, on the indie scene, one of the best ones ever. And it's obviously also a sad situation for everybody involved, but also for Mark Briscoe as well, his brother and tag team partner, who apparently turns 38 today as well.
38 today, yeah.
So it's a very sad situation. So we're just going to basically run through kind of Jay Briscoe's career, much of it alongside Mark as well, but he did have a prominent singles run too, especially in Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about some of the reaction and the outpouring of support from the rest of the wrestling world. So the Briscoes started to make their name in the Northeast American independent scene before turning out for the likes of CZW, NWA Wildside, and others. But a nice story from early on in their career, which kind of shows their hunger for the wrestling business,
passion,
I suppose, is that he and Mark started to make their name in the Northeast. Were too young to start trying to make their name, but that didn't stop them because they started to compete under masks instead, under a multitude of different personas such as the Murdochs and the Midnight Outlaws as well.
Yeah, then they would make their Ring of Honor debuts in February of 2002 and win their first Ring of Honor tag team titles in 2003. Their most recent Ring of Honor tag team title reign kicked off with that double dog collar match against FTR. They're the last of that brilliant trilogy of matches that went all the way through 2022, and it felt like they were in the middle of the run of their careers at the moment. I know that obviously the peak of Jay's career was obviously when he won the Ring of Honor World title back in 2013 from Kevin Steen, then when he won it again from Michael Elgin, I think it was, in 2014 into 2015 for a longer reign, but it just felt like the world was their oyster at the minute.
Yeah, it was one of those kind of later career, not late career necessarily, because I'm sure they had many years left
for a
as a tag
wrestler,
team, but still it did, because they started so young, maybe it felt as though both the Briscoes, especially Jay's peaks, were over, because, as you mentioned, he was a singles champion as well in Ring of Honor. But no, they proved everybody wrong with that unbelievable series, as you say, against FTR, and carried on. It looked like we're going to carry on to have many brilliant matches as a tag team, and Jay as a singles guy as well. I remember interviewing them, and I mentioned that. I said, Jay, you've obviously enjoyed singles success. You were the Ring of Honor World Champion. He corrected me, and he went, 2-time, brother. I was like, oh, fair enough. Sorry about that. But I mean, just meeting him, found him to be a very personable guy. I mentioned on Twitter that I was clearly nervous in that interview because I hadn't done many interviews, and they maybe sensed that because they just took over the interview and started threatening to beat each other up.
That was
really good.
Sorry to cut you off. Another great thing about them was the promos, wasn't it? Their ability to talk. It was just unlike anybody else in wrestling, like maybe over the past 20 years itself. So
I think Mark often is looked at as maybe the more comedic one, whereas Jay was the more serious one. He would carry the seriousness into those promos, and that lent itself so well to... There's one promo out there, if you've not seen it, where you should check it out, which is them talking about being rejected from WWE and how they're going to carry on making their name on the indie scene, and now WWE want them and they don't care, and it's about how they're not, and the term they use is not cosmetically pleasing, and the way they just go on about it is so entertaining.
That should be a selling point for WWE, the fact that we're so different.
Yeah, exactly. It's also been reported online that the tragic news also led to a pretty significant change to NXT last night as well. Yeah,
apparently the New Day were going to hold like a funeral type of thing because Pretty Deadly's been trying to get a challenge again for the NXT Tag Team Championships. New Day were going to hold a funeral for that, sort of like the challenging coming to an end. Because of the news, they rewrote the script, and Vic Joseph did a nice little tribute on the air, which was nice to see.
Yeah, it was. And I can't remember which source it was, but the things that I saw shared about it suggested that it was the decision of not only Shawn Michaels but the New Day as well. And it just, I mean, obviously it goes without saying, but it's nice to see that they all immediately understood, like, we shouldn't do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And also, actually, I was going to say, it's nice that it kind of shows the impact of Jay Briscoe, that that, you know, immediately the first thought wasn't about like, well, the show must go on. Nowadays the show, even though maybe it wasn't a company he worked in, it didn't necessarily bring the show to a stop, he wasn't there, it did alter the show significantly. And I like the thought that nowadays maybe that sort of thing comes first.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to say it wouldn't have been happening in bygone, you know, the previous regime and all that sort of stuff. But we did see it, didn't we, where things happened in the wrestling world that just weren't acknowledged on the air. You go back to sort
Ignored,
of Don West.
totally ignored,
Don West just is his untimely passing before Christmas. That was referenced by Michael Cole on SmackDown. It's nice to see that's just completely changed in WWE. So I think it speaks to how high do we rate them, because Triple H was one of the first people to sort of tweet out his reaction to the sad news. He said, "An incredible performer who created a deep connection with wrestling fans across the globe. My condolences to the family and friends of Jay Briscoe." This came after Tony Khan, I think, was the one who broke the news initially.
Yes.
What was he saying, Jack?
He was saying that Jay Briscoe has been a star in Ring of Honor for over 20 years, from the first show until today, and said, we'll do whatever we can to support his family. And that might often sound like just sort of a nice sentiment, but in the case of Tony Khan, with what we saw with Brody Lee,
yeah,
I probably believe that's actually 100% true.
Yeah, definitely. Seth Rollins also tweeted out saying, "Being in the ring with Jay Briscoe got me my first Ring of Honor contract. Without him, I don't know if Tyler Black would ever have been Seth Rollins. After I signed with WWE, Jay would come to Salisbury at house shows and to drink beer and to hoot and to holler. He loved the business and was a great human and friend. Bigger than that, he was absolutely adoring father and husband." I'm sure we all saw the video going around today of just how good a father he was, doing that little dance with his daughter, which was just heartbreaking to see.
More reaction from friends and colleagues of Jay Briscoe on Twitter. Kyle O'Reilly tweeted, "Jay Briscoe was the real deal. I was always amazed how someone could be so intimidating one moment, then so warm and affable the next. He gives so much to the business and to his family, and I'm forever grateful having known him. Strength and love to Mark and his family. Love you, bro."
Yeah, Adam Cole has worked with Jay Briscoe in Ring of Honor for many years. Obviously, he tweeted, "I don't know what my life would be like without Jay Briscoe in it, and I don't want to know. You believed in me, you helped me, you treated me like family. There will never be another like you. I'm so grateful to have known a man like you."
Effie as well, who worked with the Briscoes in GCW, tweeted, "Jay Briscoe showed me respect and love when everyone told me he wouldn't. If you knew Jay, you knew he would uplift everyone in that locker room, regardless of whatever world they came to wrestling from. The best. Rest easy, brother."
Yeah, Dax Harwood, obviously one of the most storied opponents of Jay, and Mark Briscoe just tweeted a photo of himself, Cash, and the Briscoes backstage following their last match, that double dog collar match at Final Battle last year. Just they were having a nice drink, and he was saying he was fine, because it's always the case when a wrestler dies, you see the sort of outpouring of emotion, but everyone just seems to say how just what a nice fella he was. And
this one, this one was pretty instant and across the board, the outpouring of support for Jay Briscoe. It's as we say, it's a heartbreaking situation. We will be doing some, hopefully some lighter wrestling news, or some more, I guess, neutral wrestling news today, but we just thought it was important to dedicate a full news video to Jay Briscoe. There's obviously going to be loads out there about him and his career, and what a wonderful family man he was as well. So look out for that all over. I mean, it'll be all over the wrestling internet. And leave your thoughts about Jay Briscoe's career and your favourite Jay Briscoe matches and moments in the comment section down below. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Jack. This has been Ross. We will be back with more news today on this very channel, and we'll see you soon.